Hey everybody, welcome back to Linux for Everyone and welcome home. Today we're going to talk about the Deepin 20 beta. Whenever anybody sees Deepin for the first time, their initial reaction is always the same. Oh, that looks gorgeous. You know, Deepin makes environment 20. Look, the majority of Linux installers are serviceable, but Deepin's actually looks modern and it makes Windows 10s look like a relic. The prior version of Deepin had a fantastic installer, and Deepin 20 makes some iterative improvements on it. It's snappy, it's colorful, it's smartly branded, and it's easy to navigate. I installed the Deepin 20 beta on a virtual machine using VirtualBox, which is not really the preferred way to experience this desktop. But the distro does smartly recognize VM usage and recommends using it without effects enabled. I also installed it straight to the metal on both a Dell XPS 13 and a System 76 Oryx Pro. Now, all three of these went really smoothly, whether I was nuking the entire disk or doing manual partitioning. Any operating system that gives me a tightly produced welcome video immediately gets my nod of approval. Deepin 20's welcome video is brief, and it introduces you to a handful of major new features in about a minute. The welcome app also invites you to select a few appearance defaults. For desktop mode, you can choose between Fashion, which resembles macOS and Elementary OS with that center dock, and then Efficient gives you a desktop paradigm similar to Windows, and these can be changed at any time. The running mode will have you choose between effects for more powerful computers or normal mode to reduce window effects and animations on lower powered PCs. And then there's an icon selection where you can choose between 4 sets of icons, including Deepin's Bloom and Bloom Dark. Now I have one minor gripe here. Not having the option to select an overall system-wide theme, light or dark, is a curious omission, especially since the choice for a corresponding icon theme set is here. Alright, so we've made our choices, and now let's dive into the control center. There has been a substantial change to the Deepin Control Center, and I have to confess, I miss the old version that elegantly slid out from the right side of the screen. Now it's a more traditional window interface, but thankfully it does retain all of the functionality. I'll admit it's probably easier to navigate now due to its more traditional presentation, but the Deepin 15 version was just so slick, and it really differentiated itself from every other system settings application across every OS in existence. When it comes to customization, Deepin offers a flexible desktop presentation, similar to what you've seen in Zorin OS 15 or Ubuntu Mate. For people new to Linux, the easiest way of explaining this is that you can toggle a Windows-like or macOS-like layout with a traditional system panel and tray, or a centered dock that you can tweak and relocate to other sides of the display. Resizing the dock or panel is also a breeze. You just highlight the edge and drag it up or down. You can even add multiple levels of transparency, and that really shines when it auto-adapts to your chosen wallpaper. Of course, Deepin 20 gives you the now mandatory dark mode option, which looks amazing, though I have to say the default light mode can be blindingly bright at times. But there is some flexibility in the mix. For example, setting your system theme to auto will switch between light and dark modes based on the time of day. You can also independently toggle most of the apps between light and dark mode if you don't want to fully commit to either one system-wide. Oh, and there are a ton of screensavers. Remember those flying toasters? Those are present and accounted for. I also love how you can toggle wallpapers and screensavers with an overlay that slides up from the bottom of the screen instead of launching into a separate window. Now for some rapid-fire impressions of a few of the apps that are built into Deepin 20. File browser. I absolutely adore the presentation here, especially from the home folder and especially with that pop of dark mode. Folder icons have this slightly raised appearance that lends a 3D look to them. Now the basic functionality you'd expect is here, and some extras that I appreciate from Elementary OS, like the ability to color tag certain files and folders. No frills really, but Deepin isn't necessarily intended for power users. Two things I appreciated based on my brief experience are that you can set a share password from any file or folder locations right in the browser. And Deepin 20's wallpapers, they're actually found in a normal place, inside the pictures folder, inside of a wallpaper folder. Deepin Movie. With support for basically every video format out there, as well as streaming options, Deepin Movie covers the bases. But it has one bonus that surprised me: a burst screenshot mode. Click this and it'll index its way through the entire video, then save a bunch of thumbnails. Now, for those of you of a certain age, it looks a bit like that single sheet you'd get when getting your old school rolls of film developed. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a way to save these burst shots as separate full resolution images, and I hope that's something that's coming. Deepin Music is certainly an app for playing your music. This one is fairly bare bones and doesn't remotely rise to the robust awesomeness of Lollipop, which is my